Hey y'all, it's me Sherilyn. I know I've been MIA for quite a while on YouTube, and I wanted to hop back on here and let's do a garden tour. It's kind of mid-season for me here in South Florida, and I just want to take you guys around, show you what's growing. I was very moved and touched when my grandson was scrolling through our channel, and I haven't posted in quite a while, and there were several comments about how people, miss the content, and especially as it is, centric to South Florida. And it just touched my heart, and we had been thinking about coming back on YouTube. A lot of stuff had happened, and we're going to do a separate little video, just a short little video explaining, why we stopped and what was going on. And we're all okay. Everything's fine. Nobody's unwell. No tragedies happened. But there was just some transition going on, and we'll save that for the other video. Come on, let's go look at the garden. The garden has changed a little bit from the last configuration that we had. Of course, the chickens are still over there. I guess we'll start on this end. My septic drain runs right here, all the way back to the chicken coop, which causes this grass in this area to be very tenacious. So I said, well, I'm going to put something down that's going to hinder the grass. And I just like cardboard and hay down on here. But then I had some sprouted potatoes back in December. And in South Florida, they suggest that you start your potatoes in December, early January. So what I did was I came out on top of the hay that was already here, and I put about 2 shovelfuls of compost down. I laid a sprouted potato on that, and then I covered that with 3 to 4 inches of hay. And I was so surprised a few weeks ago when these plants just popped out of the ground. They seem to be doing really well. This one's just getting started, but look at these. And I don't know the variety of these potatoes because it was just something that I had got from the farmer's market. They're like a russet potato. But I'm really excited to see how this would be like the Ruth Stout gardening method, and I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn out. And then over here, I just put up this trellis. These tomatoes I started from suckers that I pulled off of other tomato plants that are growing in the garden. They're having some suckers of their own. I'm going to have to prune them. So when my other tomatoes got big enough that they were putting out a whole bunch of suckers, I decided that I was going to start a second row of tomatoes. So that's it. It's a rainy day here, so I'm trying to do this in between little rain showers. To prune a tomato, to prune the suckers, you'll see you have the main branch here. And this is a leaf off of the main branch. This is often called the tomato armpit, because if you were to stand up straight and hold out your arm, this is what grows in the pits. And I kind of jokingly call it shaving tomato armpits. This one's a little big. I probably should use some scissors. But this is what it looks like. And I took these and put them in a mason jar, with the water up to about right here. And then left them on my windowsill that gets the afternoon sun, and they sprouted and grew roots. Then I potted them in pots and brought them out here. And look at there. Definitely time to prune the tomato armpits, shave the tomato armpits. Haha. In this bed I had cabbage. I grew 12 or 13 beautiful cabbages. Here's one little one. I might have to get early because it looks like it's getting a little buggy. I started these from seed at the end of August and planted them out. And here's our Brussels sprouts. I'm so excited about this. Let me show you. Can you see down in there? It's time to harvest some Brussels sprouts. I love this. Now, as these started to flower up, their head up, I came in and took off the bottom leaves. That just helps the plants get a little more air. Helps you see what's growing down there. But I've left the leaves where these are small here. And when they get a little bigger, I'll come in and start taking off these bottom leaves. They're not all growing at the same rate, which is fine by me because I don't want to eat them all at once. Over here, I planted a row of calendula flowers, and they have been so productive. And I just come over and pop one off, or pop them all off, and I stick them in my dehydrator on the lowest setting until they're dry. Dry them out completely. They're really good for making salve. That's very healing to your skin. But also, you can make calendula tea. It's not really flavorful, but it's really good when you put a little peppermint or something in it. And I was reading up on some of the health benefits of calendula tea, and it has been used in fighting cancer. It has been used in slowing the production. This row, I had planted carrots, and I had poor germination on this end. So we went to Produce 31 over in North Fort Myers. When they planted their strawberries, they had an excess amount of strawberries, and I was able to buy 50 plants and a flat of strawberries for $20. I was very happy. You get some big fat strawberries. There's some more planted toward the back. And here on the end is where the dragon's blood carrots, they really germinated well. I purchased those at Baker Creek, and we had a good harvest of those, and there's some holy basil. These tomatoes, I'm going to talk to you about the trellising system, and it's just kind of so-so. So I won't be doing this again. But here in the cherry tomatoes, we have a blue creamberry. They're okay. They come on little they look like clusters of grapes. And they're really beautiful. The leaves and foliage are nice, and it's not thin and fragile feeling. They grow like mad. And they stay like this seemingly forever. Here on the bottom, see it's still green, so it's not ripe. But here are some that they turn into, it's blue cream. So when you see that they look kind of purpley blue and creamy color, they're ready. And they're really not my favorite. They have a very mild taste. They're sweet. They're a little bit tart, but they just don't, I don't know, they don't sing to me, you know? When you get a good tomato and you put it in your mouth, and it's almost like a concert going off on your taste buds. It's good. I'm not so sure I'll grow it again. I do love it for its very hardy foliage. It's absolutely beautiful, but it is a space hog. 2 plants have overtaken about an 8-foot spacing on this trellis. And over here, this little makeshift thingamajigger here, I had crazy sweet 100s, and they have grown like mad. We have a little bit of blight coming on, a little bit of disease. I planted these out. I started seeds in August and planted them out in October here in South Florida. And they grow in beautiful clusters, and they are just the best cherry tomato ever. I will always, I think, grow these. They are pretty hardy. You notice the foliage isn't quite as healthy as the other ones, but we've had some really weird weather. We've grown from 80 degrees in the day to 40 degrees at night. And the tomato plants just don't like to switch seasons all within a 24-hour period. And these grow some really, really sweet. Now, I harvested 2 gallons of cherry tomatoes off of this yesterday. This is your classic, amazing, make your mouth sing cherry tomato. They're super sweet. And if you don't like them super sweet, then you can pick them when they're a little more orange and not red. Just pick them before they get to that really red stage. And then they're just a little bit sweet and still full of that rich tomato flavor. Now I want to talk to you about my so-so trellis, why I did it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, after I swallow the rest of this tomato. Mistake number 1, some of you probably have already noticed. There's, right there, 3 rows of tomato plants. And the middle rows are missing. I got these things way too close together. They're only about 3 feet apart, and I should have went probably no less than 4 or 5 feet. And that caused an airflow issue. And I think that's probably part of what's brought on some of the disease in the plants. I have this one row, the first row here to the left is all cherries. In this middle row, I had gotten some free seeds from Baker Creek, and I just wasn't happy with those. I had always gotten these Bonnie Best tomatoes, and I always bought them from Baker Creek. And they always did great. They're like a multi-purpose tomato. They're good for slicing, which means their flesh isn't going to be too juicy, isn't going to just fall apart on a sandwich, isn't going to, it's a good firm tomato, plus they're just a perfect red, round tomato, and good canning tomatoes. They hold up very well in canning, and they're very flavorful. So I couldn't find them at Baker Creek. They were sold out. I went to another seed company that I'm not going to mention because I happen to know they're a good company. I think I just got some bad seeds. I probably started 20 of these plants. And as you can see, we've only got 1, 2, 4 growing now. I only got 12 to germinate. And then out of those 12, there was about 8 that looked decent. So I planted those out. And out of that, I have 4 good, healthy plants. Maybe 5. That one may be a 5th over there. So we are having some disease. And I will say that we did have a frost. It was pretty bad in some areas. It got down to almost 30 degrees. Even though I did cover these, some areas here on the side were exposed and they got bit by the frost a little bit. But this plant, when you get a healthy plant, is so prolific. Look how many tomatoes are growing right there in that one space. It just gives you these beautiful red tomatoes. And I started these toward the end of August, I think indoors, maybe first part of September. And I planted them out in October. And other people around me, a few other gardeners, were getting fruit set way before I did. So I think I'm going to make a note to start these under shade cloth or indoors around the middle to the mid of August. You can always keep them under a shade cloth through the heat of August. You can always just pot them up and let them get a bigger head start. And I may have gotten production a lot sooner. But these are looking kind of pitiful, but they're still producing very well. This trellis that I made, I would have loved to have used a cattle panel, but I didn't have any at the moment. My son, I gave him my cattle panels because it's a long story. I was going to move and we took out every inch of garden here. Every bit of my beautiful gardens that you've seen in the past was removed, including the good garden soil. And we were letting this return to lawn because I was planning to sell the house. And I wasn't going to take a lot with me when I moved, so I gave my cattle panels away. And I needed some trellising. I went back, I gave my T-post away as well. which is fine. I love my son, and he has a beautiful garden. I'm so glad I gave it to him. But these T-posts, I went and bought more T-posts, and they were quite expensive this time around. And cattle panels were very kind of expensive, and there was a lot of expense in putting the garden back together. So I just, you know, I just said, well, I'll make do. With this I did not come up with this trellising method. I saw the Modern Yeoman did this for some wild berry bushes he had transplanted into his garden area. And I thought, well, let me give it a shot for tomatoes. Afterward, I realized it's probably not a great idea. It is sufficient. It's economical, but it's just not, you know, if I'm going to grow tomatoes, I want to do it right. So I was thinking, I'm going to go buy some cattle panels. I don't care what they cost. I'm going to buy some cattle panels. But he just took T-post and this heavy gauge wire. I purchased all of this at Tractor Supply Company, and this is on a spool. And it was like 100 feet for $12. Now this probably would work a lot better had I went ahead and invested and bought 2 spools of wire instead of 1. And then where you see here, and there's probably 18 inches down to the next one. If I had gotten 2 spools of wire, I could have done one here, you know, 8 or 10 inches below that, and just done twice as many little rows, and probably would have worked better. But this has just been a hassle, and trying to tie plants up to it has been a hassle. There's lots of string on here, there's tomato clips on here, and I just ain't up for all that. I want to enjoy my garden, y'all. These, in case you saw them, these are cattle mineral buckets that I was given from a local rancher, and I plan to turn them into a beautiful container garden. Over here, that's a weed. That's a weed, y'all, in the Garden of Weedin'. And that's weed, that's purslane. It's edible, you can eat it. It's very nutritious, but right now it's just a weed. These are contender bush beans that I'm letting go to seed. Over here, we're going to see quite the mess. So whenever your green beans come into fruit and they start just putting out all those green beans, you're going to have, with pole beans, it's usually more continual harvest. With bush beans, you'll get a big flush of beans, and you pick all those, and then they flower up and do it again 2 or 3 times. With pole beans, it's more continual. You don't just get a huge flush, and at least in my experience, you know, and then wait a little bit. So I was out here picking a lot. I have put up, I had a row of bush beans in the garden, and here on this fence is about 16 foot, anywhere 14, 16 foot trellis with just T-posts and some fencing. And I have put up probably close to 40 pints of green beans. I froze a lot of them, just tossed them in some hot water, boiling water for 3 minutes, and rinsed them off, and threw them whole into freezer bags and put them in, you know, however much I wanted in a serving, and froze them up. They're super delicious, especially sauteed. But let's get back to the garden. I harvested a lot. They weren't putting out very many fruits, so I decided that I was just going to let them dry for seed. And they get nice and brown, curly and dried. And it's an ugly rainy day today, so I probably should have got these off yesterday. The vines were trying to live, and some of them still are living. So what I did was took a pair of scissors and got under there and cut a lot of them so they would just go ahead and dry up. I'm going to harvest the rest of these seed pods, and then I am going to shell them, and I'm going to replant them here. I'm going to pull out all of these, and in a week or so I'm going to replant them. See, we've still got... So over here's the garlic. This is a soft neck variety, and I purchased it from Gurney's Seed Company. Now when you want to grow garlic in South Florida, we really don't have the cold winter that other people do. You know, you plant your garlic out in the fall, it goes through the cold winter, and it comes out in the spring. So what we do in South Florida here and other hot climates is you want to put them in the refrigerator for 6 to 8 weeks. So I ordered mine, I had them delivered by October 25th. I put them in the refrigerator in an old canning lid box marked garlic, plant December 25th. And then the day after Christmas, I came out and I planted this garlic. That way it, you know, kind of had a fake winter and it was ready to grow. I picked up these onion sets the other day at Tractor Supply, and they were marked down because it's getting right at the last day days that you want to be planting bulbing onions. And we went ahead and planted them, and they like a lot of fertilizer. So I sprinkled some composted chicken manure, which I purchased. I'll show you that whenever we talk about fertilizers in another video, but I just purchased a bag of organic composted chicken manure. Comes in like a little fertilizer sprinkle, and I just top dressed all the soil with that and planted all of these onions, and there's more in another bed, another 2 beds, and hopefully we will get some bulbing onions. If not, then we will get some really good scallions. Over here in the corner, it's the Garden of Whedon, y'all. I'm telling you, the Garden of Whedon. Here's the rest of those strawberries. And I was worried about the birds. So I have a bird netting over this, and I was thinking, oh, I don't want to drape stuff over my plants in the garden. You can't even see it, I swear. But let's look at that. Isn't that wonderful? I'm going to eat it. Don't you hate buying strawberries in the store when you can find organic strawberries and getting them home, and they taste really good like the first day or two you have them home, and then you're thinking, oh, I'd like some strawberries, and you reach in the basket and they're all soggy. I hate that. This way we get a few strawberries, 3 or 4 strawberries a day. I'm not fertilizing these well. If I did some more research, I know that you hear my rooster? If I did some more research, I'm sure that I could come up with a better fertilizing plan. Right now I'm just using some fish emulsion. I know that at the produce stand that has the U-Pick farm, they have a drip irrigation system, and they put in this beautiful fertilizer. I might have to get some. I don't know what it is. If I get some, I'll show you guys. And they have a lot of strawberries per plant, and right now I'm just getting a few off of each plant every few days, and maybe 1 off of one plant, 2 off another, and then some plants don't have strawberries at all. So I am and I use the same plants that they planted, and I know it has to be their fertilizer, so I'm going to figure that one out. But right now I'm going to eat the strawberry. So right here where I'm standing in the yard is just below my kitchen window, and I specifically designed this garden for that view. I stood at the kitchen window and looked out over the garden. So where do I want my eye to be able to go? What do I want to see? And I designed it that way. Now this is mid-season, so some things have come out, some things are struggling. It's not as beautiful as it was, and I'm sorry I didn't bring you guys along. Over here also, I forgot to tell you, right under the cherry tomatoes are some red organic potatoes that I had from just from Walmart, from the grocery store, and they sprouted, and I just stuck them in the dirt. So we're trying 2 different potato growing methods. This metal arbor was a birthday gift to myself when I realized we weren't going to move and I was going to put my garden back in. I said, I'm going to do a beautiful spot to sit in the garden. There's a little sunflower buddy. Oh, look. Happy birthday, honey. Happy birthday. I love it when the flowers get their first bloom. And here on this arbor, and it's winter time here, and we just had some severe weather, so it's not really leafy and bushy. But here is a Don Juan red climbing rose. And he has topped the top. On this side of the garden, let's turn around and look here. I have some radishes there, and I've honestly discovered I don't like radishes. No matter how I cook them, don't cook them, I just don't like them. So I think those are going to the chicken. Here I had a little A-frame trellis. We tried some spaghetti squash, but the powdery mildew took it out. And right here we had some jalapeno peppers. I know they're warm weather peppers, but I thought, well, we're South Florida, let me see what I can get away with. They grew. They grew very small. The plants are small and stunted. I got about 2 cups worth, I would say, of jalapeno peppers off of 3 plants. So it wasn't a fail. Pretty soon the cilantro is going to seed. And it never got really big. That was kind of a disappointment. So I'll have to check the seeds that I used and use something different next time. These are shishito peppers, and they grew and they flowered very well. But again, they're stunted and they have small peppers. So I'm not going to be doing that in the winter. I'm not going to do peppers in the winter. I'm hoping, since these have overwintered, that when the warmer weather comes, they'll get bigger and the fruit will be really good. Over here, we've got some sage that's growing crazy. I won't need sage for a very long time. We've got some lemon balm. And I'm trying chamomile. I got it to germinate. And I haven't seen any flowering yet, so hopefully this spring it'll flower. There's some holy basil going to seed. Some sweet basil. And here's some more herbs. Some chamomile, thyme, and oregano. And some volunteer nasturtiums. Aren't they beautiful? And in that bed right there, we have got some leeks and onions. I think I got the leeks a little too close together. I started those from seed and just started them all in one pot. And when they were really tiny, I separated them under water, under running water, loosened them up and planted them out. But they're doing pretty good. There's one lone cabbage right back there, and it's been eaten by something. Something has helped itself to my cabbage. And the dill has gone to seed, so I'm going to harvest that seed here. In this bed I had kohlrabi. It did fabulous, but I realized I'm not a huge fan. And I did have a few little spinach plants and kale. I tucked in some bare spots. They're starting to come up. There's some more of those onions. And this little A-frame trellis I purchased at Tractor Supply Company. It was $25, and it's okay. I do like the fact that it comes all apart and you can store it without taking up much space. It's not super sturdy though. It's a little flimsy. And I've got cucumbers. I got some free seeds from Baker Creek. And I got cucumbers growing in here. They're the Bet Alpha variety. I've heard great things about them. And we will see. So y'all, I just want to thank you for taking a little tour of the garden with me. I know it seemed a little haphazard. We're kind of trying to avoid the rain. And I just sort of rattled on and rambled. But I hope it was informative. I'm going to try to get the varieties of the vegetables and stuff that I grew. And whenever I'm showing you those in the garden, I'm going to try to put that up on the screen. And I'm going to try to pick up this camera and get out in the garden more often. We shouldn't let good enough just do away with good enough in the pursuit of excellence. So I hope this video was good enough. And I'm going to try to pick up this camera a whole lot more. But do me a favor though. I'm not going to be posting regularly scheduled videos. And if you are interested in the content about growing food in South Florida or following along, we're going to do some bread baking, the easiest recipe ever. It doesn't take any time. We're going to be doing some recipes and some cooking with some of the food that comes out of the garden. And we're going to be doing food preservation. I'm going to take you on a pantry tour and show you what I have in there, things I've put away and preserved, food storage, you know, all sorts of little stuff. But if you'll just bear with me and give me some grace, because I am not going to ever be a pro. I'm just going to be me, and that's good enough, and I'm not going to sacrifice good enough in the pursuit of excellence. So if you would please just hit the notifications bell on the channel. If you haven't subscribed, if you want to, hey, subscribe. I'd love to have you. But you know what? If you could just hit that notification bell, I'm not going to make regularly scheduled videos, and that way you won't miss out. Until next time, bye y'all.